Take Back Your Power and Do It With Food hosts Joy Binah and Rita Rivera are both authors. Check out Joy's book, The 10 Most Nutritious Recipes on the Planet and a Step into Radiant Health. And Rita Rivera's book, Milks Alive, 140 Delicious and Nutritious Recipes for Fresh Nut and Seed Milks. And now, Take Back Your Power and Do It With Food with Joy and Rita.
Hi, I'm Joy Binah, and welcome to Take Back Your Power and Do It With Food.
Hi everyone, I'm Rita Rivera, and this episode is on fats.
Here is a table that is loaded with a variety of fats. Some are healthy and some are toxic. Do you know which ones are good for you? Fats. Fats is a topic loaded with misinformation. Since the 1970s, we've been hoodwinked to fuel a phobia toward fats. For over 40 years, fats have been associated with heart disease and obesity. The fact that all saturated fats cause heart disease and obesity is a huge myth, with ramifications that have truly been deadly.
You know, the studies show a link between saturated fats and heart disease, and they group these with trans fats into the same category. Trans fats are fat molecules that have literally been transformed, such as the hydrogenation process vegetable oils undergo to become margarine. Specifically, it's trans fats that are the fats linked to heart disease and other health problems. The cause of heart disease is most definitely not whole, healthy fats. Natural fats are healthy and delicious, and in truth, essential to life. Amazing but true, most people would benefit from getting 50 to 75% of their total calories from healthy fats.
Yes, and I bet most of you listening to this are blown away to think that 50 to 70% of your total calories should be coming from fat. Each and every cell membrane in our bodies are made of fat. The brain is 60% fat, and 60% of the energy of your heart comes from burning fat. Actually, fat's needed in a majority of the body's functions. A growing body cannot do without it. Fats are particularly important to pregnant women during the last trimester of pregnancy, when the brain of the fetus is being developed. And ingesting healthy fats continue to be critical throughout nursing. Healthy fats will liberate our energy and contribute to the feeling that we can accomplish anything. The subject of fats can feel so confusing and a little overwhelming, but I get it, really, I totally get it. And it's our promise to make it as simple as possible. So let's begin with an understanding of the different fats. So we're going to begin a description of the three types of fat. And what we're talking about is their cellular structure. We'll begin with saturated fat, which has a cellular structure of a straight line. And a friend of mine gave the obvious analogy of a saturated sponge. When a sponge is saturated, nothing else can get in it. So saturated fat has a cellular structure of a straight line. Monounsaturated fat, mono meaning one, and unsaturated, it's not saturated. And it's not saturated because it has a bend in the molecular structure. Right here, there is a bend. And the bend is where it's subject to rancidity, to oxidation, to light, to heat. Monounsaturated fat with one bend. And the third and last, for our purposes today, are polyunsaturated fats. Poly meaning many, and unsaturated. And it is unsaturated, as you could imagine, because there are many bends in this molecular structure. So where there are bends is where these fats are vulnerable to rancidity, to oxidation, through heat, through light. These are the fats that we have to be especially careful of taking care of.
We also have a myth that saturated fats makes us fat, that they are the cause of us gaining weight. But research tells us that we have not increased our fat consumption over the past 30 years, and yet our obesity and disease statistics have skyrocketed. Ironically, the biggest contributors to being fat are low-fat processed foods and those products. So how could low-fat products cause our bodies to produce the saturated fat?
Well, in order to make these low-fat products taste good, because you can imagine if you remove the fat, it's not going to be very tasty. Food corporations load them with sugar, and it's the sugar that ultimately produces fat in the body.
That is the culprit.
That's right. And the irony is that when we eat whole fats, we actually will slow down the absorption of food so that you no longer feel as hungry.
So where does all this saturated fat come from? Animal fat is an example of saturated fat. This is where it is critical to buy organic. Toxins are stored in the fat of the animals, and animals that are not fed organically and consume GMOs, the genetically modified grain, have an overload of toxins and a barrage of antibiotics that are stored in their fat.
It's so true. And so when you buy meat and dairy, something that could act as a medicine for your body instead becomes a horrible toxin. So, that's really what our food choices come down to. Do we want to heal ourselves and support a life of vibrant health, or are we willing to dump more toxins in our body and create disease? The choice is always ours.
So let's talk about what other saturated fats there are besides meat and dairy. For those of us who are vegan or looking at a vegan diet or interested in being a vegan, my favorite is one that has made the journey from villain to victor in the health food world. And for this show, it is our takeaway power food, and that is coconut oil. Coconut oil is a medium chain saturated fat, and this structure enables it to be absorbed by the body quickly and used as energy when metabolized. In fact, coconut oil has a thermogenic effect, meaning it will raise the body's temperature, which boosts energy and the metabolic rate, actually promoting weight loss.
This needs to be repeated again and again. Coconut oil provides fast energy without being stored as fat. It doesn't get stored as fat. Back as far as the 1940s, evidence surfaced. Farmers hoping to fatten up cows fed the cows coconut oil, and instead of gaining weight, they actually resisted gaining weight and became very lean, so naturally they discontinued its use. There's been a constant misrepresentation of this amazing oil regarding obesity and heart disease. Propaganda claims that this heart-healthy saturated fat leads to clogging of the arteries. A campaign to discredit coconut oil in favor of the oils that are not as healthy, and when cooked, become damaged, as we've illustrated, and actually do clog the arteries. Coconut oil won't oxidize. It's a saturated fat, and it has a very long shelf life of close to 3 years or more. Most experts agree that coconut oil is really the only oil safe for cooking. Even when being exposed to high heat, it remains stable. It's antifungal, it's antiviral, it's anti-inflammatory, it is yeast fighting. It's really a powerful, powerful healing food.
Yes, and there is so much false information about coconut oil, and it is still circulating. So please do not be fooled. I am so happy that Elizabeth Borelli is joining us today for this discussion on fats. Elizabeth is a nutritional consultant as well as an author, and she is an expert at putting together delicious recipes. And here we are in Joy Binah's kitchen, and we're right by her beautiful pantry, and it's just a great environment to talk about food and nutrition. So Elizabeth, Joy, and I have been talking about coconut oil, and I'd love to know what your go-to oil is in the kitchen and how you would use it.
Well, thank you for asking, and thank you for inviting me to join you too. As a matter of fact, coconut oil is my go-to oil.
I thought so.
Yeah, I use it in a number of ways. I use it in cooking and baking for several reasons. One of them is the amazing health properties that Joyce mentioned. The other reason is that it has a really high smoke point.
Yes, very important.
Yeah, so unlike some of the other raw plant-based oils or even butter that people use a lot in baking, coconut oil can be risen to higher temperatures without burning. And that's really important because, you probably have noticed that if you fry anything with butter ever, it can burn in the pan very easily. And that not only imparts kind of a bad flavor, it's actually not very healthy for you as well.
Right, exactly.
Coconut oil can be used as an alternative to butter, to olive oil, to any of your traditional plant-based oils, just in place of them, one-to-one substitution. And it can also be used in baking really easily. It does impart a little bit of a mellow coconut flavor.
Yes.
But most people find that really pleasant.
Yeah, and that goes with other spices very well. I know some of your recipes are Mediterranean and some Indian recipes in your book, and that goes really well with the coconut oil.
Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I haven't found it to really clash with any flavor profile. I've always had great success using it.
So Elizabeth, you spoke about the smoke point of using coconut oil when you're in the kitchen. Any other qualities you'd like to share with us?
One of the things that does confuse people about coconut oil is the fact that it's a solid. So it's a saturated fat. So it's solid when it's cool or even at room temperature. And so it can be stored. It doesn't need to be refrigerated. It can be stored in your cabinet or pantry, but it will still be solid. And that sometimes throws people off a little bit. The fortunate thing about coconut oil, one of the many, is it melts really, really easily. It's very highly stable, so it can last in your pantry for quite a while. And when you go to use it in baked goods or things where you're substituting oils, cooking oils, like perhaps canola oil or other plant-based oils, you want it to be in oil form, typically to make it easier to blend in with whatever you're preparing. And at that point, you'd want to heat it slightly on the stove, just a little bit, to melt it and get it into that liquid form again. And then, like I said, it's a one-to-one substitution.
Let's talk a little bit about olive oil. Is that an oil that you enjoy using in the kitchen, and why?
I use olive oil a lot as well. Coconut and olive are my two favorite. They're both plant-based oils. Olive oil is very high in monounsaturated fats, and it's got a lot of great health properties. So one of the great things about it is it's a plant-based oil, it's cold pressed, so it's really fresh and heart healthy. And it's also got that wonderful flavor. The thing you need to remember about olive oil is it does have a low smoke point, which is why I don't use it as frequently in sauteing or in some of the other high heat recipes that I might reserve for coconut oil. Olive oil as well, along with some of the other heart healthy plant-based oils, is best used at lower temperatures, sprinkled on salads, or even for dipping some delicious whole grain bread in. Delicious.
Yeah. I love using olive oil and fresh lemon juice on a salad and a little bit of balsamic and some salt. It's just perfect. It's really delicious.
It brings the best of fresh flavor into your cooking.
It does, absolutely. So I know you know a lot about trans fats. You've done some research on trans fats. Can you tell our viewers a little bit about that?
Trans fats are really a byproduct of a process called hydrogenization. And that's something that processed food manufacturers developed, this process, to create a longer shelf life for their product.
It's because they're taking the oil and wanting to create a fat from it, a solid from it.
Right. So for stability of shelf life and flavor, it really helps processed foods last longer. So it's great for processed foods, bad for your body.
Yes.
And it's tricky because there's a little loophole in the labeling requirements for trans fats. So something can say, a food product can say 0 grams of trans fat on the label, but actually it can contain up to a half gram of trans fat per serving. So you always need to look to the nutrition panel to see whether it's anything hydrogenated is listed. So hydrogenated oil or hydrogenated shortening, those terms will clue you in that there's trans fat in the product and put it back.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit more about that. And I want to look at some products that we might find on the shelves. So what I want to just review what Elizabeth said, which I think is so important for all of us to keep in mind when we're shopping, when we're looking at the label, that the line that says trans fat can legally say 0.
Right.
But we have to read the ingredient list to see if there's anything that's hydrogenated.
Correct.
And that will give us the clue that there are indeed trans fats. So Elizabeth, I'd like you to talk to us about the nutrition fact chart, and give people an idea of where they can look for saturated fat.
Well, we have our little chart here, and this is referring to a muffin, actually half a muffin, because 1 serving size per muffin for this particular muffin is 1/2. So we would take a look down this list, and right under fat, here's a line that says saturated fat, then a line that says trans fat. So we know right now that it has 4 grams of trans fat in this product. It could actually say 0 grams of trans fat and still have some trans fat in it, up to a 1/2 gram.
Right. And that's what we were just discussing.
Right there, you know this isn't a healthy product. Even though it's a muffin, it might sound like a good choice for breakfast. With the trans fat listed there are definitely better choices.
And it probably looks great, looks delicious.
Of course, and it might say healthy, it might even say heart healthy on the front of the package. But that's why we always need to look at the nutrition facts and the ingredients list to find out.
So what we're recommending is that when people look at the nutritional label, that making sure under trans fats it says 0. And then the other important part is that we have to go to the list of ingredients to really find out if this is a product that we want to purchase.
Well, you know, when we look at sort of the other profile, nutrition profile of this product, when we see the saturated fat here, we can pretty safely assume that it's not the healthy version of saturated fat. In fact, the saturated fat used in this muffin is margarine. So that's a highly processed fat that we'd be better off avoiding.
Let's take a trip into our local grocery store. And I picked up a few products to take a look at them, and especially in this information about understanding trans fats. Elizabeth, just have a look at that and tell me what you think about the packaging and what's on the label.
Okay, yes. So like Rita said, mom's walking through the grocery store aisle looking for a quick snack for the children. And as a parent, what are we going to look for? We're going to look for calcium, and we're going to look for easy to serve, and the kids will like it. So this could be something you might pick up just thinking healthy snack, calcium, natural flavors. It's got a lot of other little notes on the top here. No high fructose corn syrup, that's good, gluten-free. So this could be easily picked up as something that might be a really good healthy food option if you didn't read the label. Because the minute you read the label, you take a look here and you see, just like we talked about, trans fat, 0 grams. But then when we read down further into the ingredients label, it's got hydrogenated palm oil. So it actually does contain trans fat. And then if we read a little further onto this label, we can see that it contains 12 grams of sugar in this tiny little cup. So these are pretty small. That must be mostly sugar, because 4 teaspoons, 4 grams per teaspoon, so 4 teaspoons of sugar in this tiny little cup. This would not be a good choice. For
important to read the labels and to understand and know what you're looking for. And this was one that surprised me a little bit. Popcorn, right? Healthy?
Yep.
Let's take a look at that. Everybody loves popcorn. It's delicious. You think that it's a healthy choice. Why not purchase some popcorn for the kids after school?
Right, and a lot of people think of it as a low-calorie snack, all natural. It's made from corn. So this would be something that a lot of people might pick up thinking, great choice for a healthy snack. So let's take a look at the label on this one. Okay, right here we can see that this has 4.5 grams of trans fat. So much for low-calorie healthy snack. We'd put this one back.
Little fudge strips, that sounds kind of nice. And these little chocolate cakes, all of the same issue, that they are not labeling the trans fats, but yet, if you read the ingredient list, you will find, in fact, there are trans fats in these cookies. And these are just snacks, something you would have a little bit of after a meal. So, Elizabeth, tell me what your experience is shopping in a supermarket around trans fats besides snacks.
Snacks is normally what we might think would contain a lot of these trans fats or fatty acids that we're trying to avoid, but in truth, they're in a lot of products because of the shelf life stability component that they add. They're valuable product for manufacturers. So they're even in salad dressings, they're in crackers, anything. Typically there are a lot of products made with pie crust, like, turkey pot pie or the frozen pot pies or anything with a crust. Those typically contain trans fats. So really the important thing is to always read the label, no matter what it says on the front and no matter how healthy it says this product is, you always need to take a look at the label to find out.
You must read the ingredients. If you see that there are any hydrogenated oils, put it back.
Absolutely.
Would you agree?
Definitely.
That was really useful, what we learned with Elizabeth. And now, if you want to learn how to incorporate coconut oil, you can supercharge your smoothie by adding a tablespoon of coconut oil. You can add it to your oatmeal, spread it on a rice cracker with a little bit of cinnamon, which is delicious. You can even blend it in your coffee. Pour it on your popcorn with some nutritional yeast. So many things to use it for. In your stir fry, you can even put a tablespoon, mix it with raw honey. It's a great combination and really delicious.
In our first episode on sugar, we spoke about the takeaway power food chia. When I make a chia breakfast, after I pour the almond milk in and let the chia plump up, I liquefy some coconut oil and I stir that in. Any excuse to add coconut oil to the diet, it is so incredibly good for you. So please start experimenting with it in your kitchen and don't forget your body. It's really great for your skin as well.
Coconut oil has been used as both a food and medicine for a very long time. It balances blood sugar, it boosts brain function, supports our nervous system, it's excellent for the skin, and it also balances hormones, boosts the metabolism, and fat-soluble vitamins absorb far more efficiently, aids in digestion, increases immune health, anti-inflammatory. It's also an appetite suppressant, and so much more.
Of course, when we're talking about coconut oil, we're talking about organic, virgin coconut oil. Now let's move on to monounsaturated fat. This is an unsaturated oil and has one bend in its structure. Monounsaturated fats began to catch the attention of researchers in the mid-1980s when they discovered that monounsaturated fats had many heart protective features. In addition, it was discovered that monounsaturated fats had the ability to assist in controlling blood sugar. Monounsaturated fats are found in a variety of foods. Avocados and macadamia nuts are great examples. Many of plant oils consists of 20 to 50% monounsaturated fat, with olive oil being the highest, 75% monounsaturated fat. The Mediterranean diet and its claimed health benefits uses olive oil as a key component. So let's discuss olive oil, the highest in monounsaturated fat. In addition to bolstering the immune system and helping to protect against viruses, olive oil has also been found to be effective in fighting against diseases.
And the phytonutrient in extra virgin olive oil, oleocanthal, mimics the effect of ibuprofen in reducing inflammation. Olive oil is rich in antioxidants, especially vitamin E. A high consumption of olive oil appears to improve bone mineralization and lessens calcification. I highly recommend using it on salads, drizzled over cooked or raw vegetables. When I cook my vegetables, I like to use a little Japanese bamboo steamer. And then when they're done, I just drizzle some olive oil on top. And I'll also put that on my quinoa and other grains after I cook. This method will maintain the most vitamins and minerals, and it enables you to enjoy your oils and all the benefits they bring without the danger of damaging them with heat. You get all that flavor.
Now let's get into polyunsaturated fats. Polyunsaturated fats is the one with many bends. So remembering that this is where we can get rancidity, oxidation, damaged fats. Beginning 30 years ago, the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 in the Western diet changed from 2 to 1 to as much as 25 to 1. This occurred because of the switch from using butter and lard to margarine and vegetable oils. Our diet now includes way too many oils rich in omega-6, which is inflammation. Omega-6 is inflammation, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. Oils like cottonseed oil, sunflower oil, peanut oil, soybean oil. Too few omega-3 oils like fish oil, krill oil, walnuts, flax, hemp, and our favorite chia seed. We need to be aware of this ratio that's gotten way out of hand. And when we talk again about the polyunsaturated fat oils like the hemp and the chia and the flax, we need to be so careful about how we want to store them. They should be in the refrigerator or at the very least in a cool, dark cupboard. And you should buy them in small quantities and never heat them. Never use them as a cooking oil. So important to get that piece straight. And if you wanted to eat eggs or meat products that are high in omega-3, you have to make sure that the cows were grass-fed, they were grazing cows. You have to make sure that the chickens were fed feed that was high in omega-3 like flaxseed.
And remember what Joy just said, that omega-6 fatty acids create inflammation. 65 to 70% of the inflammation in our bodies is caused by too much omega-6. It's this type of inflammation that is constant, low grade, and systemic, attacking all bodily functions. And actually, it can be said that any disease in the body begins with this state of inflammation. The omega-3 fatty acids are anti-inflammatory and the ones you want to consume and have a concentration of in your diet. The omega-3 fatty acids are found in cell membranes of the body, the nervous system, our eyes, our brain. They play a significant role in reducing the risk of cardiovascular disease and hypertension. Flax and chia have a significant percentage of omega-3 fatty acids. Let's listen to Dr. Hosbaum tell us more about our need for omega-3s in our diet.
We're sitting here with Dr. Hosbaum, who is a family practitioner and who is trained in functional medicine. I'm wondering if you could speak to how, the misconception that fat is bad, all fats are bad, and what that has done to really the health, our health in general.
To begin with, our brain is mostly fat. All our hormones are made from cholesterol. All our cells are lined with fat. Every single cell in our body is lined with fat. So we need fat from our diet for that. Now the important thing is that we need the right kind of fats. The deep fried foods, French fries and margarine are toxic to the body. They don't fit in the places where the fat needs to fit. They don't have the shape that it takes to fit well in the membranes. So it's kind of like trying to open a door with the key upside down or with the wrong key. It messes up the communication system so that hormones can't communicate with the inside of the cells, etc. So everything in the body just doesn't function as well. So the importance of eating fats, first of all, is something I want to stress. This whole era of low fat and don't eat fat and low fat foods has been very detrimental because instead of having fat in the diet, the proportional increase in carbohydrates has caused so much damage in metabolism of most people. What I mean by that is, if in your plate you're going to have less fat, less calories from fat, you're going to have more calories from carbohydrates or proteins. And in general, most people have increased the amount of carbohydrates, particularly the refined carbohydrates like sugars, or even whole grain bread is still refined.
And the body experiences it as sugar.
The body experiences it as sugar, and over time, it messes up the metabolism.
Yes.
So it leads to prediabetes and later diabetes.
And we were talking about how since the word was out that fat makes you fat way back, I don't know, in the 1940s when it first started to really impress upon the minds of the public, we started developing low-fat products.
Right.
And in order to make these low-fat products taste good, they were laden with sugar.
Right.
And so though we have not been eating more fat for the past 40 years or more, we have an epidemic of obesity and of disease.
Exactly.
And so what's that because of? Obviously, the sugar.
Exactly. It's because of the metabolism problems that eating all that sugar has caused. But there's also two other ways in which this has been detrimental. One is that the body needs fat, and a lot of people have their hormonal system messed up because they don't even have enough raw material to make their hormones. It also is what you need for your brain and to line every nerve in your body. So it's a deficiency in fats.
It's a deficiency.
A deficiency in the right kind of fat. The second reason why it's been detrimental is because a lot of these foods that are no-fat foods are heavily laden with chemicals, and those are toxic for the body. So they're plastic foods, they're fake foods.
Ironically, we have all these low-fat products that are laden with sugars and toxins and just across the board really bad for you.
Yes.
And because they're everywhere and because people have become so fat-phobic, people are just terrified of fat, and yet the percentage of obesity and disease has risen. So what about the statistics that tell us that by eating fat, it actually assists you in losing weight? Can you speak about that?
Yes, that is true, and it's true for two reasons. One is that fat produces satiety, a sense of fullness, and you will not be as hungry, so you won't be eating as often or as much. And the other thing is just hormonally. It balances your sugar or your insulin system so that you're not having highs and lows and then you're feeling hungry.
And also when you're eating whole healthy fats, the body is using a calming energy. Isn't that true? That when people eat fat as opposed to eating a lot of sugar, there's access to a calmness that sugar certainly doesn't provide.
Yes. And the way that happens is through lowering of cortisol, because when you're eating sugar, you're constantly having spikes of insulin and cortisol goes up. And cortisol is the stress hormone. It's the fight or flight hormone, as if there's danger. So you are much more hyper when you eat sugar, and eating fat and protein along with carbohydrates that are complex, like vegetables particularly, then
things that have a lot of fiber.
Yes, things that have a lot of fiber and nutrient content. So then you have more calm.
Yes.
Yes.
And I wanted to talk about polyunsaturates, and specifically omega-3s and 6s. And how my understanding is that the ratio, the healthy ratio, is 2 omega-6s to 1 omega-3. Omega-6s are the inflammatory fat, and omega-3s are the anti-inflammatory. But since we stopped eating lard and butter and switched it for margarine and other horribly processed fake fats, and also plant oils, like sunflower and sesame and soybean and corn oil and, the long list, and all the omega-6s that are contained in processed foods, the ratio has changed dramatically, and we're subject to a huge amount of inflammation because of it, and that is wreaking havoc in our health.
I had mentioned previously that it's important to eat the right kind of fats for this reason, because fats are also the raw materials to make certain chemicals in your body that either make you be more readily inflamed or calm down inflammation. It's important to understand that in the body, everything needs to be in balance. It's like a seesaw. You have to have both of those branches working properly. So if you injure your leg, you want to create a response to repair it, and it's usually inflammatory in the moment. Or if you're fighting a bug, there's inflammation involved. So you want to be able to respond, but at the same time, you need the stop. So you need the gas pedal and you need the brake. So the brake is the omega-3s, and the accelerator is the omega-6s. And it's true that in our society, our diet, because of the processing of our foods and the oils used in the processed foods, which are corn and safflower and those sort of oils, plus
soybean
margarine,
and peanut and margarine,
these are highly inflammatory. And so our seesaw is very much out of balance. So eating good fats that are omega-3 would mean eating cold water fish is one of the best sources, like salmon. Small fish like sardine and mackerel, because some of the large fish, there's some toxicity issues with those. But besides that, raw nuts and seeds, particularly walnuts, chia seeds, flaxseed, hemp, exactly, are other good sources. And other good fats that are not omega-3, but they're still good for the body for other reasons, are avocado, olives and olive oil, and coconut. Coconut is a saturated fat, but it also has beneficial properties for digestion, etc.
Yeah, you mentioned nuts and seeds as a great source of fat, and I love my nuts and seeds, but I always take care to eat them raw. And can you talk about that, why that's so important?
Yes, that's a really good habit, because nuts and seeds have fats that are polyunsaturated, as you said, and those are very susceptible to going bad, to becoming rancid, particularly with light or heat. So if you're roasting them at high heat or cooking them, you will damage them. And then as they are when they go into your body, they have a different form and they don't fit the right places. So basically, they're not good for you, and some become toxic to you.
So that's why we have to be so careful with all our polyunsaturated oils to never heat them.
Right.
We never cook with any of them.
Right.
Because it damages them.
Right.
So just to sum it up, we're again learning how fat is been made the villain, when in fact it is such an important piece of our diet. It's such an important piece of health for us. And it tastes wonderful.
It does.
And when you eat something that tastes wonderful, you're less likely to eat things that are not good for you. You don't have cravings. It satiates you in ways that nothing else can. And it's just the whole healthy fats that do that. Exactly. And because fats are subject to damage, it seems that the best fats for us to eat are the ones that are still in the form that nature delivers them in, like the nuts and the seeds and the avocados and the olives. When we process things, there's danger of damage, so we have to be really careful with that.
We have learned that due to our extreme imbalance in omega-3 versus omega-6 and the related enormous health risks, supplementation is often necessary. Most of us, even those with healthy plant-dominant diets, are omega-3 deficient. Krill oil or fish oils About 6 grams should be taken daily to assist us in regulating the proper ratio that supports optimum health. Above all sources of omega-3s, we again suggest that you make friends with chia seed, high in omega-3s, which is 34% oil. Chia is the richest plant source of this healthy oil. And the very best way to enjoy fats is the way that Mother Nature intended, in the seed or nut form, protected from oxidation and degradation. So eat those olives, avocados, nuts, seeds, include the hemp seeds, flax, chia, and enjoy every mouthful, knowing that you're supporting the health and well-being of your body.
Okay, so before we get into the all-important subject of trans fats, I want to talk about canola oil. I bet most of you watching this think that canola oil is a healthy choice. It says right here on the bottle, heart healthy canola oil. Canola oil. I want to let you know that there is no canola plant in nature. As an attempt to create a cheaper version of olive oil, researchers genetically modified the rapeseed plant from the mustard seed family and created GMO, genetically modified rapeseed oil. Canadian researchers figured out a way to genetically modify it further to lower the acid content and give it the appearance of a heart-healthy polyunsaturated fat. Canola is actually registered as a pesticide with the Environmental Protection Agency and considered toxic to inhale. And we're consuming this stuff right out of the bottle in a wide variety of processed foods. As all other refined vegetable oils, canola oil is cooked, bleached, deodorized to the point of where it can sit on your shelf for years and years and not go bad. When something has a natural elongated shelf life, it tells us that bacteria will not consume this product. And if bacteria can't digest it, you will also have some serious trouble digesting this oil. So to emphasize again what's really going on here, these fats, these trans fats, form when the vegetable oils harden from adding hydrogen, a process called hydrogenation. Hydrogenated fats clog your arteries. Studies that link saturated fats to heart disease have not made the distinction between trans fats and whole, healthy, saturated fats. And the culprit is most definitely
Trans fats.
Trans fats. This is the big, huge source of information. Why hydrogenate an oil? Hydrogenation increases the shelf life. So pumped full of hydrogen to straighten out these bends with high heat using chemicals, the oils can never go rancid. When the body uses these damaged fats, terrible things begin to happen. Building cell membranes with trans fats rather than whole fats create holes in the membranes, subjecting the cells to all manner of invasion. You can imagine if you have a cell membrane and then it has perforations, what can go in and out of your cells, not supposed to happen. So it also causes weight gain and, which certainly leads to obesity.
A study by Harvard researchers report that trans fat in margarine and other processed foods could be responsible for thousands of the nation's annual deaths from heart disease. Pretty extraordinary. The top 10 worst trans fat foods are spreads, margarine and other non-butter spreads, and shortenings. Margarine contains extremely harmful ingredients such as free radicals, emulsifiers, preservatives, artificial flavors, bleaches, soy protein isolate, sterols, and hexane, as well as many other artificial and synthetic ingredients. Commercial baking mixes, packaged dried soups, fast foods, frozen food, commercially baked goods, chips, crackers, cereals, breakfast bars, cookies, and candy, whipped topping, gravy mixes, salad dressings, non-dairy creamers. The list goes on and on and on, and we want you to be aware when you are purchasing those items.
We really so need to be aware. We need to, when we go to the supermarket, we need to have time to read labels. We can't just zip by and pick out things.
Absolutely.
Now let's take another look at the fats and oils that we have here. So we know that most of your salad dressings are made with these laden omega-6 oils. These oils cause inflammation. Lots of salad dressings are made with these oils. Then we have the very unhealthy margarines that you heard what they were made with. I mean, ugh.
Yeah.
So we don't want margarines. Instead, we want to buy healthy, grass-fed butter. We want the cows to be grazing on grass. We want them to eat their omega-3s
Right.
so that the butter that we eat has omega-3s in them, and they're full of nutrients. Whole butter, grass-fed cow butter. And then, of course, coconut oil is the saturated fat of choice along with butter, but coconut oil is great to cook with and for all the reasons we spoke about. And then we move into the omega-3 anti-inflammatory oils like flaxseed oil and hemp oil. This is actually olive oil, which we'll get into in a minute. Flaxseed oil and hemp oil. And you notice these are small, dark bottles. Remember, they're a polyunsaturated oil, so they have to be kept
From the light.
safely. And preferably in the refrigerator, certainly in a cool cupboard. And then olive oil, like monounsaturated fat olive oil. I had also purchased in a small dark bottle because it has the one bend and is subject to damage over time. These oils are plant oils. These can be used, they certainly can, but not liberally. They're omega-6 oils, sunflower oil and sesame oil. I enjoy using them, but I'm careful with the amount that I use. Omega-6 is an inflammatory oil, so you want to be careful with how much you use omega-6 oils. We get omega-6s, a lot of plants are predominantly omega-6, and the body does need inflammation, like when you get a cut, it becomes inflamed. And you need to have it inflamed in order to heal, and there are lots of reasons why the body needs inflammation. But remember that ratio was 2 omega-6 to 1 omega-3. It's now an average of 25 omega-6, so we are getting way too much inflammation. So we're hoping that you're really getting what it is that you need to avoid. We hope you will step away from the unhealthy oils, the damaged, fake, and genetically modified fats, and enjoy a variety of whole and healthy fats that are so good for you. They are just essential for a vibrant and healthy life. Choose to make a commitment to the health of your body. Not only do healthy fats taste great, but they're necessary for our well-being. And they'll deliver a calm energy that will assist you to be on top of your game.
So we really hope that you will let go of the guilt and the myth that eating fat will make you fat, and that you bring along some raw nuts to snack on when you're traveling. Eat an avocado, drizzle that olive oil on your salad, and by all means, make friends with coconut oil and experiment with using it in a number of different ways. So let's commit to take back our power, do it with food, and know your fats.